we got another one in the trenches. The Miami Hurricanes continue to sizzle on the recruiting trail from the 205 to the 305. Tyson Bacon, welcome to the U.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You could stop freaking out for a minute. I mean, Miami fans in my mentions for the last couple of weeks are all like, where are the commits? 2 weekends of official visits. We can't land anybody. Is the program broken? Did Mario Cristobal lose his loafers? And then in one night, Miami gives you the 2-for-1. Cannon Pickett, the early one yesterday. By the way, we had Cannon Pickett on the show right after his commitment, so make sure you check that out at Locked On Canes. And then a few hours after Pickett commits, Miami lands one on the defensive line. I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC and writer for Canes County at Rivals. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. On this Locked On Canes, we're going to talk more about the House versus NCAA settlement, how it's going to impact Miami and college sports. We're going to recap what started off as a terrible, but ended up being a very good Miami Hurricanes baseball season and a building block we hope and we think for next year. Our pal Raymond Bourg is going to join us to talk about that. We'll talk about where Miami now ranks in class of 2026 recruiting, because yes, we landed another big-time 4-star target, a guy whose recruitment was national and a lot of it coming from the SEC. The Miami Hurricanes have landed defensive tackle Tyson Bacon, Ty Bacon out of Hoover, Alabama. So we already have an offensive lineman nicknamed the Pancake Honcho. Now we've got a D lineman named Bacon. One of the hosts of the Orange Bowl boys goes by Toast. So all we need is somebody named Eggs, and we got the full Grand Slam, I guess. But Tyson Bacon is a big time land for Miami. We mentioned a guy right out of SEC country. And the Hurricanes, to land this 4-star defensive lineman, had to beat out the likes of Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and Florida. And Bacon, by the way, was formerly committed to the Tennessee Volunteers. So that's another one Miami beat out. He backed off his pledge back in the spring to Tennessee, a player that comes right out of Crimson Tide and Auburn territory there in Alabama. Currently stands, just Bacon, 6'4", 267 pounds. I was reading some comments from one of his high school coaches who spoke to Inside the U, who mentioned, like, he recently turned 17. He's growing. They think that by the time Bacon, a little less than a year from now, spring of 2026, by the time he steps onto campus at Miami, it's going to be more in the 290 range. Folks, not only do I appreciate what Miami's doing in this recruiting class, where they already have 6 offensive linemen committed, several defensive linemen now, and I think more are going to be added to that mix. And the way Coach Cristobal has been building this program for the past several recruiting cycles, I love how Mario is building this thing from the inside out, because you do need to win at the line of scrimmage if you're going to win championships. Yes, you also need to have very good quarterbacks, dynamic passing games, functional running games, but the bread and butter for championship level teams. Look at Ohio State last year. Look at Michigan the year prior. You have to be able to win at the line of scrimmage and dominate there consistently. And Miami is building the type of roster that's going to do that. And Ty Bacon becomes a big part of that. So this is a player who had already made official visits to Georgia and Florida before he took his Miami visit this past weekend. And that's the one that really stood out to him. He talked afterwards about Miami's hospitality, second to none. All of the coaches emphasized to Bacon that he fits the program. He fits what Miami's trying to build, not only as a football player, but also as a person. And that was something he appreciated. Very versatile defensive tackle. That's another thing Miami likes about him is his versatility. Got a high football IQ, I'm told. It's very heavy-handed, tremendous balance, and tremendous body control. And folks, when it came to getting this one over the finish line with Bacon, we give a big recruiting dub here to new defensive line coach Damian Lewis, who's only been on the staff for a few months, former Miami Hurricane himself, a guy who had a decade-long NFL career. This is D. Lou's first win as a primary recruiter with the Miami Hurricane. So I hope Damian Lewis is enjoying this one. And he and Mr. Bacon really connected during his recruitment. Bacon talked about how much he wants to be coached by D. Lou, and of course, how much he wants to be coached by Pro Football Hall of Famer Jason Taylor, Miami's other defensive line coach. And this is Tyson Bacon. This is a Mario Cristobal player through and through. Big, physical, tough at the point of attack. And again, Miami staff really appreciates his football IQ. So this past season, his junior season, Hoover High School in Alabama, had 6 tackles for loss from the interior, had a sack as well. And this is a guy who, again, has been rising up the boards. And I know it's probably, to be honest, a name that we haven't talked about enough previously here on Locked On Canes. You know, similarly to another guy we didn't do enough justice to was Reese Woodrow. But we've since done justice to Woodrow. We even had him on the show a couple weeks ago. Great young man, great family. Ty Bacon is another one who really seems to have risen up Miami's recruiting ranks in recent weeks. And it becomes a nice recruiting win for Damian Lewis. And again, 4-star defensive lineman, 6'4", 267 pounds and growing. Welcome to the U. This certainly bumps up my recruiting ranking. And again, yesterday, Tuesday, it was a big day. You had the old 2-for-1 bat signal from D-Train Dennis Smith. You had the afternoon aperitif. You know, we use language like that here in Europe. I'm still over in Italy right now. The aperitivo in the afternoon of Cannon Pickett. And then you had the meal, the dinner, a little bit after that with Tyson Bacon. And why not bacon for dinner, breakfast for dinner? That was a joke that Coach Mirabal made on social media last night. So where does Miami now rank in class of 2026 recruiting? We'll break it down and how close Miami is to continuing a certain hot streak. We'll talk about that and so much more. You want to keep it locked right here. We're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Folks, I'm only getting started with Game Time. This is the only ticket app that I use. I've been using Game Time for the past couple of years. I've gotten amazing seats to Florida Panthers games. Heck, they're in the Stanley Cup Finals, and we're going to try to win the thing, man. Miami Heat games, Miami Dolphins games, of course, Miami Hurricanes games. You're going to find the best deals from Miami versus Notre Dame to open up the season. Concert tickets. I got the best prices on AC/DC tickets about a month ago. It is all going down at Game Time, and there's nothing like the NBA Finals. The intensity, the buzzer beaters, the fans losing their minds. It's the kind of atmosphere you want to experience live. This year's matchup is already delivering, and if you want in, Game Time makes it fast and easy to get seats, even for the biggest playoff games. Prices on the app actually drop the closer to tip-off, and with killer last-minute deals, panoramic seat views, and no surprise fees, Game Time is a total game changer. Folks, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. It works, by the way. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE and get $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Big defensive lineman Tyson Bacon, right out of SEC country, picks Miami over Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State. Another big recruiting win for the Hurricanes, who scored a pair of those yesterday with offensive lineman Cannon Pickett, defensive lineman Tyson Bacon, who becomes Miami's 13th verbal commitment in this cycle. So here's who Miami has landed so far. And, you know, I don't know exactly how big the class is going to be, but we're usually right around that like 25, 26 player range. So we're probably about halfway through A bunch of Miami targets, guys like Calvin Russell and probably Derek Cooper are going to be making announcements in early July. So, a lot of the players we're looking at are about 2.5 weeks away from either picking Miami or not picking Miami. But the class is going to continue to grow. You have 13 verbal commits to this point. We'll give them to you in order of their rankings. Jackson Cantwell, top player in the country, number one, big-time offensive tackle. Jordan Campbell, linebacker, 6'2", 200 pounds. He is Miami's second highest rated commit. We got some good news over the weekend on Jordan Campbell. Like, he's long been committed to Miami verbally, but he, for a long time, had continued to go through his process, was taking visits. After his official visit to Miami last weekend, he shut it down. He shut down his recruitment. Jordan Campbell is completely focused on the U, and that's a really good thing. Jalen Waters, four-star defensive back, former Florida commit, now Miami commit. He's our third highest rated. Then Darion Coleman, Miami's quarterback, four-star. Jontavius Wyman, four-star cornerback. Ben Congdon, four-star offensive lineman. Javion Mallory, four-star running back. Now, Mallory, I know we're sweating a little bit because he is taking an OV official visit to Alabama. So he's been a long time Miami commit. He's a South Florida kid, but when the Crimson Tide wants you to come for a visit, it's hard to say no. So we're gonna have to sweat that one out a little bit, and hope Miami can hold on to Javion Mallory. We certainly hope we will. We did just we're getting a visit this weekend from Jay Lamar, who's another top running back in our sights, and Derek Cooper. Miami seems to be trending for him. So we do have other running backs on the radar, but we certainly hope we can hold on to Javion Mallory. That's a guy who has not completely shut down his recruitment. Camden Portis, four-star defensive back, son of Clinton. He has shut his recruitment down. He's all Cane. We just landed Tyson Bacon and Cannon Pickett. They're ranked one after the other. Four-star defensive lineman and offensive lineman. Joel Irvin, four-star offensive lineman. J.J. Sparks, center of the future. And Reese Woodrow, another interior offensive lineman. That is Miami's recruiting class so far in 2026. As far as where Miami ranks now, you stay in that top 10 and you're moving up throughout that top 10. According to the On3 Sports industry ranking, Miami right now has the number 8 class in the country. You are looking directly up at the Clemson Tigers at number 7 with 18 verbal commits. So Clemson has a bigger class than Miami right now. I think the average is about the same in terms of the caliber of players. So Clemson, Dabo's doing a really good job in recruiting. Miami's right behind Clemson now. If Miami can surpass Clemson, and we hope and expect that they can, the Hurricanes are going to try to have, I think this would be the 4th year in a row, Miami would have the top recruiting class in the ACC. And of course, we're trying for, in the same amount of time, the top recruiting class in the state of Florida as well. Miami has those big time streaks going, top in the ACC, top in Florida. Miami does have the top class in Florida at the moment, but not the top in the ACC. So Clemson is at number 7, Texas A&M ranked 6, Georgia at number 5, Notre Dame 4th, Ohio State 3rd, LSU 2nd, and USC with 28 commits, more than double Miami right now. USC has the number 1 recruiting class in the country. Lincoln Riley and company have been very, very busy there. So that's where Miami currently stands. Landing Ty Bacon is a great boost for the Hurricanes. Cannon Pickett yesterday, a big boost. And again, if you guys haven't checked it out, I encourage you to go to the audio version, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or to YouTube and watch the episode. Bruce Warner was with me. We interviewed Cannon Pickett. His father and his mother both made cameos in the video as well. But we interviewed Cannon minutes after he committed to Miami. And it was, honestly, it was a great moment. That was something like we've interviewed commits and players before, but never like right after they make the announcement. So I just want to say thank you again to the Pickett family for allowing us to be part of their big day and their big moment. It was humbling, like to be able to kind of share that recruiting process with Cannon. It was awesome, and I cannot wait to cover him at the University of Miami. Let's talk some Canes baseball. What started out as just an awful season, 15-15, looking like Miami was not going to sniff any sort of postseason, JD Arteaga and his players got it together. They had for the most part, a wonderful finish to the regular season. Although they did drop the final couple of series. And then they get out of the South Alabama regional. Miami advancing through a regional for the first time since 2016. They get one run away from Omaha. And my outlook completely changed. Let's talk to our very good friend and Canes baseball aficionado, who I also appreciate. He knows I'm in Italy right now, so he's wearing the Azzurri soccer jersey at the moment. GA Cane fan Raymond Bourg. So Raymond, like, we had so many conversations during the baseball season, good and bad, and like we all wanted to get to Omaha, but I've got to give this Canes baseball team a pat on the back for getting that close.
They had a lot of guts. I mean, it's the beginning of the season. We talked, everything I read about was this was going to be worse than last year. They didn't have a good roster. And at the end of the season, it showed they looked horrible when they lost the first game out of the Cal and the ACC baseball championship in Charlotte. And I'm like, okay, we're going to be done. Maybe we'll get one win. We're not going to beat Alabama. And then they upset Alabama, and which was funny. Alabama melted from the heat. And then they played you versus Southern Mississippi the last couple games. And they got racked at one game, but the next game they won and they advanced to Louisville. And then they got racked again for game one, but they came back in game two, played an incredible game. Torres was awesome in that game. And Cuvée, of course, was Cuvée. And then the game three was an incredible game to watch. And I thought, God, maybe we were going to get to Omaha. And then all of a sudden, Monroe goes to second for Louisville on a wild pitch from Williams. It was like, and then they scored in the winning run, and that was it. But they didn't quit, though. They had a man on first and second. They just couldn't get him home, and they couldn't get Torres really back up there again. But you have to give this team credit. They didn't quit. Maybe this is corny, but I'm proud of them. They relaxed. They had a good time. A lot of these guys know this is it. So for Cuvée, and they played their hearts out, and they did everything they could. I mean, the relief pitching was also incredible. That's what kept them in this tournament as long as they did.
Yeah, and how did it change your outlook? Because you and I had a lot of conversations during the season and it wasn't just you and me. I mean, every Miami fan was so down on the team, so down on the direction of the program. How are we feeling now? Because I've got to hope that getting closer or as close to Omaha as they've been in almost 20 years, right? One pass ball, one run away from getting to the College World Series. We've got to look at this. Do you look at this like a building block for what could hopefully be an even better 2026 and beyond?
Potentially. There's a lot of factors. First of all, real quick, Cuvée is up for the draft. He may leave. That's going to be a big part. He is the leader of this team. In fact, he's also one of the finalists for the Golden Spike, which is baseball's Heisman Trophy winner. But the biggest thing is they're only losing 5 players to graduation, which is good. And they really got the ones they're losing. It's only the one starting pitcher with a funny mustache. The rest of them didn't get a lot of playing time. God bless them. Hope they got their degrees. But the biggest thing is going to be 2 things: is recruiting. We're not going to know anything until the draft, which is going to be here in my home area now of Georgia, in Atlanta, July 13th. What pitchers are going to stay, what they're going to go. I have not really seen a commitment list. That's going to be key. They need starting pitching. And the other thing is going to be investment of NIL money. Is how much are they going to put in, along with having full scholarships. Now, I don't know if Miami is giving full baseball scholarships for all 20-plus players, but that's a crucial thing as well, too. It's always hurt Miami because UF, Florida State, they've got funding, so these guys are getting basically full rides.
Yeah.
That's the key. I wonder is recruiting. Sorry about that.
Yeah, recruiting and no, you're fine. Recruiting and attacking the transfer portal, and when you talk about scholarships, we know roster sizes, at least roster limits are coming. Scholarship counts are increasing. I want to talk about the House settlement when we come back, and I want to see if Raymond agrees with the point that I made the other day about how this is going to impact Miami specifically. You want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen. For your next listen, make sure you check out The Portal. Good friend of the show, Brian Smith, hosts The Portal here on the Locked On Network, taking you through all things NIL, recruiting, house settlement, transfer portal. Because as Mario Cristobal has said, the portal is it's always open, and Brian Smith is always covering it. Available free wherever you get your podcasts, and available free on YouTube. So, I know you've spent a lot of time, Raymond, kind of diving into the ins and outs of this house settlement, which is very complicated. Like, people tend to kind of spread a few different bullet points, but there's a lot that goes into this. But people have wondered now, with basically having a salary cap on the revenue sharing at $20.5 million for this year, which is spread to all sports, not just football, although probably about 90% of it is going to go to football and basketball. And more scrutiny on the third-party NIL deals. Some folks outside of South Florida are looking at this like, hey, you think Miami's going to be free spending anymore? Now the party's over with the house settlement. But honestly, one thing, Raymond, with the scrutiny that's going to come from these NIL deals now, I feel like that can work in Miami's favor. Because when you're in one of the bigger markets in college sports, metropolitan city, Fortune 500 companies locally in South Florida, I think Miami can actually produce a lot more legitimate NIL deals than some of these small town schools that basically embezzle money, through the local car dealerships. Like, to me, there's a lot more actual NIL to be had in a place like Miami.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of the settlement is very strange, but the $20 million cap, but that's not also including some of the NIL money and other type of fundings they can get. I think, and I hate to quote this because I don't like this person as a reporter, at least the character he plays, Paul Feinbaum, saying is the rich is going to get richer. The teams with the money are going to spend the money no matter what, and they're going to go over that salary cap. The salary cap is a joke. And there's basically what I don't think the players and the school and the agents, Tennessee is also one that's fighting this really hard. They don't like what's going on. And I don't like this whole clearinghouse thing. So you're going to tell this kid, it's like, well, if it's more than $600, we're going to have to review this. Well, who's going to be in charge of this committee? They've got some gentleman, and I don't know, I think his name is Williams from Major League Baseball coming over to run it. What authority does he truly have? And I'm fine. I'm going to sound corny again, but as an American and believing in freedom and as a libertarian, who are you to judge how much money? And you can review that. Long as it's legal, someone can pay me whatever I want, whatever I feel I'm worth. And I've done that through my career. So you want to do that and judge how much someone gets paid? I believe it's going. I think this is going to be a scenario. This is going to go to court, and they're going to. And I believe players and agents and other schools are going to sue. The other lawsuits coming down the pike is going to be Title IX because they're going to want to cut the money too for the women's sports, especially women's basketball and softball. Softball does get good ratings, so you're going to have to deal with that factor as well too. This is, to me, I think this house settlement is going to make more problems than it solves. And I just think it was just not done well. I mean, it's a court case. House actually was a player. It's not, the House of Representatives or a state house. It's actually a human being, which I'll be blunt. I learned this morning going to do some more research. It's going to be more. It's going to make muddy the waters even more, and it's going to deal with free market. And I don't think it's going to take a long time to do what they're going to do. I don't see unionization. But also, I keep hearing the sky is falling, but I'm old enough. And today, yes, it is my birthday, and I'm not going to tell you how old I am.
30.
Thank you. And then some, 30 by the third power. You're going to see, now you got me making jokes. Now I'm losing my train of thought. But everyone's NFL free agency, when I first started, the world was going to end. We can't have free agency. We can't have these players. Jim Finks of the Saints, who basically got in the court and tried to say all these 20-year-old men were kids and they don't know what they're doing. Looked horrible in court, and the players won. I think that was Matt Mikowski. I think Mikowski and Freeman McNeil were part of that court case to show my age and crap in my head. And they won. And I believe, I don't think it's going to be end of college sports. It's going to change. I mean, there's one great thing I heard from ESPN was, what about the other sports? I learned something again doing more research. Cal tried to save money by getting rid of their baseball team several years ago. Private funding pulled it together and they kept it. What's going to happen to those sports, the Olympic sports? I think it will all work out. There's enough money in this country they can figure it out and they can work a deal. And I don't believe in all the money. I don't believe that some of these guys are making $3, $4, $5 million. I don't, suppose the rumor is Manning the third or whatever you want to call him at Texas is making $8 million. I don't know. I just don't see someone giving him $8 million for what's the turnaround for a maybe for a quarterback with great genetics. I don't know, but
Well, and yeah, well, as far as I know, and it's funny because everybody's got different numbers for these quarterbacks, right? Some people will tell you, "Oh, Carson Beck is making 5 million." Some people say 3 million, 4 million. Like you mentioned for Arch Manning, I saw somewhere. Who knows if anyone knows for sure? I saw 6.5 million. But honestly, that creates kind of a layered conversation because when you're talking about NIL value, name, image, and likeness value, even if Arch Manning is hypothetically not the best quarterback in the country, he does have the biggest name of any quarterback in the country. So doesn't that mean he's worth potentially more NIL in a free market than a quarterback who's not part of the Manning family? I mean, yeah, it makes sense. Arch Manning is worth more NIL money than if his name was Arch Smith.
yeah, absolutely. And in some ways, absolutely. But also, you're at Texas. In Texas, they could
Yeah.
have us at quarterback, and people are going to watch it on TV. Won't be very good football, but they'll watch us on TV. The podcast would be incredible too. That's the thing as well too. But he is going to bring in ratings. He'll also bring in national ratings. I mean, Texas will be Southwestern football, and the Southeast will watch him. But Manning is a national because of his uncles and his father. I'm also old enough to remember when Archie played with the Saints, God bless him, and Houston and Minnesota. So absolutely, he brings in ratings. It's all about TV ratings and making the money now, and also getting people to gamble on the sports. So I'm going to put money on Texas, which is unfortunately what I'm seeing professional sports turning into. Is we don't care about the quality game, but people are gambling. That means they're going to watch the game. They're going to buy the streaming services to watch our games on every different streaming platform you can think of, and some we don't even know of yet.
That's right. So, well, I've got all of them. And by the way, he mentioned it. I want everyone flood our comments with happy birthday messages for Raymond. He turns 28 years old today. Flood our messages with happy birthday comments. I appreciate you taking the time on your birthday, Raymond. And thank you so much. And any parting message out there to anyone worried about this house settlement?
I wouldn't worry about it. Let's see how the cards fall, and we'll see what happens from there. I'm more worried right now. I'm not saying worried, but I'm more focused on what that first game against Notre Dame from Miami. But I'm not worried about recruiting. I have complete faith in the Miami organization now and how they've rebounded and put in the money, and they're going to be fine. They keep recruiting like they're doing. I'm watching you. These kids are coming in. They're believing into the system. We get our defense in line. We may have a very special season coming up.
Heck yeah. I mean, we welcomed Tyson Bacon to the U this morning. We welcomed Cannon Pickett to Miami yesterday afternoon. We're having a great time here. A huge thanks to Raymond, a.k.a. G.A. Kane fan. Thanks to you guys. Make sure you follow us. Follow me at Alex Donno on X. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your pods. And we'll talk to you again next time on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.